All right, welcome everybody for our September 23rd, 2015 Real Estate Realities live Google Hangout. Looking forward to today. Today's going to be a really good one. I've got some stuff I've been getting questions for a long time on and kind of been piling up to address them in one really good kind of all-encompassing hangout here. So I've got Kenny on live with me. Kenny is the operations director for the consulting and training side of our business, the real estate growth system side of things. He's also for years been the operations director of the Todd Tremonti home selling team at Market Expert Realty here in the Dallas area. So it's valuable to have him on just to kind of give some insight from a team perspective, but also from a company growth perspective. As most of you know, I am Todd Tremonti, broker and owner at Market Experts Realty here in the Dallas area, as well as owner of Real Estate Growth Systems, where we help agents and brokers and team leaders all over the country do some of the things that we do, but most importantly, build the business that fits their ideal lifestyle. Or unfortunately, most of us in the real estate business are trying to fit our lives around our real estate business because our real estate businesses can just take over everything in our lives. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Actually, we'll probably talk a lot about that today, but primarily what we're going to talk about today is how to grow a successful real estate business with the right balance of structure and flexibility. So you might use a couple of different words for structure and flexibility. For structure, you might say systems, expectations, organization, some requirements, some values. For flexibility, you might say autonomy or flexibility or freedom with your time and your options. So basically, once you hit the point where you're productive beyond kind of winging it, you'll encounter that there's a need for some structure. There's a need for systems. There's a need for some framework around things. And then once you start to find the boundaries and the edges and the challenges of those systems, ultimately you're going to find there's a need for some balance between structure and systems and freedom and flexibility. And it's important to have both. And I'll share today, kind of my philosophy, my opinion, and then also a lot of specifics on the systems and structure that we use and the amount of freedom and flexibility that we encourage, and really where we've found success and where agents that we've worked with have found success in many markets all over the country with many different types of businesses. So we'll talk about a lot of those things today. We also want to try to address some of your specific questions. So hopefully you are watching us on live in your Google Plus setup, and you can see the box that asks you for questions. If for some reason you don't see that, you can actually email questions to Kenny, Kenny, at toddtremonti.com, and he can keep an eye on that. He just realized that he could keep an eye on that as I just said that, and he can pepper some questions my way, or he might be able to answer them for you. Before we get fully rolling, let me make sure I give you guys kind of the proper introduction on Kenny. I told you a little bit about who he is, but a lot of what we deliver, our training and consulting clients is coming from Kenny. Obviously, I'm creating a lot of that content. I'm sharing a lot of what's worked for me over the last 14 or 15 years, what works on our team. But Kenny is making sure that those wheels keep turning and you guys get what you need. So Kenny, why don't you say hey to everybody real quick, and then we'll dig into the specifics here.
Hey guys, excited to be here. And yeah, Todd's given me an opportunity to work behind the scenes, which is kind of best suited for my personality. We're a little bit different. So if you spend any time between the two of us, you'll kind of quickly pick that up. So excited to be a part of that and be a part of these educational resources that we're trying to make available to other agents. So let's get some questions. If you need them, email them to me, Kenny at toddtremonti.com.
Cool. All right. So if you see the Q&A chat bar deal, feel free to enter them in there. But that seems to always be a little tricky technology-wise. So if you have a question that we haven't addressed or you can't get it in the chat bar, just email it to Kenny at toddtremonti.com. One more thing before we get rolling. I always try to give something away, just some additional over and above kind of value. And so hang with us till the end. I'm going to give on this call, I'm positive, the absolute best thing I've ever given away on one of these educational hangouts or on a phone call or anything. It's amazing. And honestly, I'm not, I don't know that I'll ever do it again. It's a little much, but I think it's fun. And I want, we want people to value what we do and like us and get a lot of value out of that. So real quick, we told you up front that we're going to talk about the balance between structure and flexibility as a team grows. And we peppered a bunch of bullet items that we're going to talk about how to. So I want to get into as much of the specifics as we possibly can, but it is also really, really valuable to get questions from you so that we can make sure that the information we're giving you will be specifically valuable for you. We don't want to just give you a bunch of general information. We want to give you specifics that you can apply right away. So one of the first things that I want to share when you think about the structure piece of what it takes to grow a successful business is, kind of the meeting structure, the meeting schedule. Now, before someone checks out because they're a solo agent, stick with me and I'm going to tell you how this applies even if you're an individual agent. But I think the majority of the folks that we work with either want to build a team or are building a team or have had a successful team for a long time, but they're kind of team focused. So stick with me if you're a solo agent or even if you don't want a team, and I'll tell you how this applies to you. But for most of you, you've either got an assistant, a buyer's agent, or a couple of each. You might even already be to the level in your business that you have a listing specialist, a transaction coordinator, a client care coordinator. Those may be physically local in your office or they may be virtual. But I am a strong proponent of the morning huddle. Now, this is a suggestion really first made famous in a book called book by Vern Harnish called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, where he talks about things that John D. Rockefeller did and obviously one of the greatest businesses in the history of the world, certainly in the history of our country, to become absurdly wealthy and in a lot of ways do a lot of good things for our country and for the world. But I believe in that morning huddle. Now, that's become a really popular thing to say in the residential real estate world. And so the idea of a morning huddle is not necessarily new to you, but I want to share with you not only exactly what we do in our huddles, what I think you should do, but also some of the context behind why and some of the unspoken things that you can do there that will help you achieve 3, 4, 5, 10 maybe of the other things that I'm going to talk about as far as the balance between structure and flexibility. So the 3 major things we do in a huddle is, number 1, we report good news. Obviously, you want to get good news out of every single person on your team every day for the purpose of keeping everybody happy, keeping everybody positive, keeping the ambition up, the enjoyment of working together up, the ability to see the fruit of your labor. Now, when we do good news, we don't just ask for business good news. We're not only asking about new clients signed, new closings achieved, and things like that. We are asking, hey, how did that date go with your wife last night? Or, hey, how did the vacation go over the weekend? Or, hey, how was your son's soccer game? We're asking for anything that we can high five each other about. So Kenny, what was one of our good news this morning? I'm trying to think of one that somebody I could think of a few business related ones, but
someone had an awesome time at a concert last night.
That's right. One of our buyers agents went to a Garth Brooks concert last night, and Garth's supposed to do one of the best concerts in the world anyway, but he said he did 7 nights in a row in Dallas, which is insane to me. I can't imagine. I've been trying to do the math in my head, how many seats are in there, the average cost of a ticket, what his overhead might be, and the amount of money he just made in 7 nights. But anyway, at the end of the show, it was his last night in town. He just said, hey, I don't have anywhere to be tomorrow, and he just kept on playing. So Timothy showed up a little tired today, but he had a good reason. And so that was his good news. He also had a closing yesterday. And I think I might have set a new buyer appointment yesterday. So he had lots of good news, but that concert was personal, but it was still fun to share with the group, and the group was able to kind of high five and celebrate that with him. That sets a good tone for your team and for your day. As a leader, you want your people to know that you're invested in them way beyond transactions. You never want to make somebody feel like you're only there for them to close business and bring you checks. People need to know that you care about them, and you need to genuinely care about them. If not, you're going to run into a lot of problems building a real estate business. So the first thing we do is report our good news. The second thing that I ask for is their key numbers. And so I'm asking for them to report what most people call KPI, key performance indicators. That's also from Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. By the way, Vern Harnish has a new book out called Scaling Up. It's basically an updated version, and it's great. It's really, really, really good book. So you might want to check that out. But the idea of that morning huddle, reporting good news, reporting your key numbers, whatever they are, everyone should have key numbers, top down. So it's not just your salespeople reporting number of calls, number of contacts, number of appointments, number of contracts, number of closings. It's also your support staff potentially keeping track of their key things. I spoke with 5 past clients yesterday. Right now, we're at 92% of our closings happening on time. You might have a lead manager or an inside salesperson that might be tracking appointments set, appointments kept. It could be a lot of different things, but everybody should be tracking their 1 or 2 or 3 key results, and that's what they report during that huddle. The third thing that we always want to do is we want to just check in with everybody. Hey, does anybody need anything today? We're not going to necessarily solve any of those problems during that morning huddle because we want to keep that morning meeting time to less than 15 minutes, ideally 10 or 12 minutes. So somebody might say, hey, I need to talk with you a little bit later. I'm looking for a good air conditioning person. Or, hey, I've got a little snag on an amendment. Can we talk a little bit later about that? Okay, great. So then we know what needs to be done later. We know what to get plugged into a calendar, but we're not going to spend 45 minutes or an hour addressing it right there in the morning. I also want to encourage you to do these live in your office. Now, depending on how your company works, it might have to be virtual. You might be in multiple markets, or you might not have office space. So you'll need to think about what's best for you. But we like to do that live, physically in person. And on a rare occasion, somebody can call in if they're stuck in traffic, or if they're at home with a sick kid, or they're physically sick, or whatever. But that needs to be a rare exception. So those are the specific things we do in that morning huddle. We ask for good news, we report our key numbers, and we address any needed items that need to be addressed later in the day. Now, there's a few kind of subconscious or unspoken, very intentional things that I do as the leader of that meeting. And by the way, when I'm not leading that meeting, our operations director is leading that meeting, and she's doing the exact same things. So what I'm trying to do is check the pulse of everybody on the team. Is anybody feeling a little bit distant? Is anybody not very vocal? Do I need to follow up? Do I need to grab lunch with somebody? Do I need to solve a problem that's kind of under the surface? Is one person potentially making somebody else feel, not part of the team or not respected? So I'm keeping my eye out for team health, right? Just relational connectivity and the health of the team. I'm also keeping an eye on any trends that I'm seeing. Has someone been late a few times? That's not okay. Is someone calling in too often? That's not okay. Does someone roll their eyes when somebody else reports success? Is somebody sugarcoating their success and it's just not tracking through to the numbers? But I'm also reiterating our team's core values, right? So when something happens and it's perfectly in line with our core values, I'm repeating that core value back. Man, that's awesome, dude. That's exactly what we want to do as we differentiate with excellence. That's exactly what I want to hear about your clients. You are killing it. That's awesome. Hey, that's exactly why we talk about success being contagious. When things like that happen, more good things happen. So we're reinforcing and restating our core values. As a matter of fact, one of our core values is vision leaks. And that's just that idea that once you set the vision and the tone for your company, you've got to reset and recommunicate that vision over and over and over, where it'll kind of seep out of everybody's awareness and out of the front of their mind and out of the top priority list. So I'm doing some of those kind of intangible things, giving feedback, really valuing people, keeping an eye out for negatives, recommunicating those core values, and certainly whatever your monthly or quarterly goal might be, you want to recommunicating that in a positive way as well. If anything critical or anything negative needs to happen at all, you take that offline and do that outside of the huddle. It doesn't mean you don't clearly communicate your standards in the huddle. If somebody reports that they just didn't make any calls yesterday and their goal and you agreed that it was supposed to be 55, you don't just say great job. You just say, okay, well, let's talk about that later. Let's figure out why that, what we need to do to get back on track. But you keep it positive. So that's a couple of notes on how we handle that morning huddle. I strongly recommend that you do that for the reasons I just stated, and for about 100 other reasons that I didn't have a chance to state. When we talk to people in our members only group, we've had multiple hour-long calls about just this idea. So there's obviously a lot there, but I want to get into as much of the specifics as we can, and address some of the questions that kind of inspired this call. So one of the other things that we do structurally, and this is, I don't know anybody else that does this, but this is something that we feel is really important. We do a team practice every single day at 10:30. Now, 8:15 morning huddle. We want to be finished by 8:30. We want to prospect from 8:30 to 10:30, every person on the team. Now, different prospecting for different roles, but we want to prospect every morning for a couple hours. And then at 10:30, we circle up for what we call practice. You might call it training, or whatever the heck you want to call it. Sometimes that's role playing. Sometimes that's me teaching a concept. It could be NLP, neuro linguistic programming. It could be disc profiling. It could be an approach to handling inspection requests. It could be how to generate better testimonials. It could be a lot of different things. It also might just be an open conversation with the team. Does anybody have any suggestions as to how we could get better? Is there anything that we're doing that's just not working well? Is there anything that one of you guys is doing that is working well that we should share with the entire team so everybody can benefit? Is there a system we can improve? Has anybody stumbled onto a problem that we weren't able to help you with? So that's all happening from 10:30 to 11. To be really honest with you, that meeting usually goes a little bit long because we just enjoy being together, and we really are really trying to help each other. That's where a little bit more of the accountability happens. We might talk through a specific transaction and solve a problem together so that everybody benefits from that thought process and from learning from each other, but also so that some of those problems get solved. On our team, we also have a marketing team meeting or a listing team meeting. Our operations director is also our listing coordinator. So our lead marketing agent or listing agent, our operations director, and myself, we all meet every Monday, and we talk for 30 minutes to an hour on the specifics of what's needed to make sure we're doing the right thing for every single one of our properties that we're marketing, for every one of those clients, and for any specific issue related to our marketing, lead gen for marketing. And again, I keep saying marketing, but most people use the word listing. I don't like the word listing for a lot of reasons. Nobody wants to pay you to be on your list. But anyway, so that's another piece of structure we have. Beyond that, there's really not a lot. We do a training day every quarter where we spend an entire day together, and the previous quarter builds the agenda for that day. We ask our team members to submit anything they need to dig in on, and we'll spend as much time as is needed to address that item, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We've even taken half a training day to write a book together as a team one time. So we've done a lot of different things. But that's really the structure we create. Generally speaking, we provide structure from about 8:15 to about 11 a.m. And that's enough structure and training and education for our team to then go out with as much flexibility and autonomy as they need with the remainder of their day and their week to do what they need to do. Show property, meet with clients, negotiate transactions, and get the car wash, get their hair done, hang out with their family, all those different things. Now, there is a lot more behind those meetings and what we're doing, but that's the amount of structure that we have. I will say that there's been some ebbing and flowing of that as our team has at times been bigger or at times been smaller. We've maybe added, for instance, a buyer team meeting when we had enough people that was really necessary. And so there's been some ebb and flow. We've had an hour or an hour and a half long team meeting at times. We prefer having that 30 minutes every single day over having one extended meeting. It keeps it a little bit more casual, a little bit more functional, a little bit more helpful for everybody. And that's something that, again, members of our training group have found that that's a really good structure for them as well. Folks that have come in for a consulting day, spent a day or two here in our office to build or rebuild their business, have found that to be kind of an immediate boost to their team, is implementing some really honestly simple structure. And then as team leaders or brokers, we work with those folks to continue to kind of layer in some of those unspoken, intangible items where they're reinforcing their values, or they're planting seeds towards goals, or they're training when it doesn't feel like they're training. You know, that's another thing that I do as far as kind of training when you're not training, is just grabbing lunch, grabbing a cup of coffee, going ahead and lingering at someone's desk or in their office for 15 or 20 minutes, telling a lot of stories of past successes and past failures. I think it's important as the leader of your company to be willing to talk about your mistakes you've made in the past and kind of how you learned and how you got where you are. I think that builds trust, and it shouldn't be manufactured. It shouldn't be manipulative, but it's something that you should strongly consider doing with your team, being open about those things and building that loyalty and that trust among your team. And you can train through those things. You teach through those experiences. And you really can build some loyalty and increase the skill set of your team members by doing that. Kenny, do you have any thoughts on that before we kind of jump to a few of these other items?
Yeah, just on the structure thing, just the fact that whenever we're interviewing prospective agents to join our team, a lot of times they're thinking, this just kind of reminded me of that, of the fact that they're always kind of thinking, I'm going to get into real estate and I'm going to have an unlimited amount of time and freedom and flexibility with my schedule, with my day, with my, income and all this stuff. And they quickly realize what they thought that they were getting in for, which was to get away from any kind of a structured career or job. They're lacking without the structure. And so we've had so many people talk to us at the table when we interview just about the fact that I either don't want structure and then leave this table because it's not going to work out for them in our company, who then potentially come back and say, hey, the structure that you had that I didn't want before is something that I realized that I desperately need. Or we have people that are I guess, have a higher self-awareness of themselves and realize that they need that structure. And so, for an agent, for the personality type that specifically, is kind of typically gifted towards that, I think the structure, creating some sort of balance for them between structure and flexibility is necessary, and it really gives them the freedom to really expand their business and really take off once they have some kind of parameters around that. So
yeah, I mean, I think even if today is the very first day you've ever thought about building a real estate business, great. But most of us have kind of encountered or struggled or thought through some of these challenges. And one of the main challenges you have is you build a sales organization, which, by the way, is what you're doing. If you're building a real estate team, you are, whether you chose to be or not, a sales trainer, a sales manager, a salesperson, all rolled into one. Now, as you scale up, you can bring people in to do some of those things, but ultimately, that's what most of us become. And salespeople, traditionally great salespeople, are one of two or three things, right? They're either super outgoing and super personal and loud and dominant and sometimes overbearing, typically prideful, maybe even a little bit arrogant, or they can be, that's probably the number one, they can also be methodical, systematic, detailed on follow-up. Different products, different services lend themselves to different personality types being successful. But it's very rare that you have the combination of the two. Somebody who's super personal, super persuasive, really outgoing, very aggressive, yet also very disciplined and organized and systematic. So you as a team leader are probably more often than not going to go out and recruit and hire the highly personable, tenacious, results-oriented person. It's then your job to provide some systems and structure to get them to at least perform an acceptable level of organization, consistency, systematic work, right? How many times has there been a salesperson that can sell all day long, but they want to throw up every time they have to fill out paperwork, right? Well, where do you think the transaction coordinator role came from in the real estate world, right? I can go sell more houses if I can talk all day long, right? If someone else can hammer out the file and I can go talk we can both do more business, right? And so that's where the evolution of kind of the modern real estate team came from. But that's rooted in people's natural gifts. My gift is to talk and talk and talk and hang out and be persuasive and think strategically. My gift is not to manage the spreadsheet and to do the checklist, because I want to skip all the stuff that I don't like and only do the part that's exciting to me. There are other people on the team who have kind of the opposite personalities. You know, Kenny talked about he has a role that's in the background a bit, and he's really good at it. So I try to drag him out into the foreground and get him on these hangouts every once in a while, just so he can share how to do the background stuff well. I'm not great at background. Obviously, you've got to be capable at things that maybe you don't love, but you've got to do the things that you're great at as often as possible. And so that's why structure and flexibility are really important. And Kenny's exactly right. I can't count the number of times we've sat down with people that have said, I've learned I need that. They didn't know that when they started in sales or business. They learned it because they went to an environment where somebody said, there's a phone, good luck, and they failed. And they knew they could do better. They just didn't know what they needed to do. And I would say if there's one sentence that I find myself saying over and over and over, especially since I started kind of consulting and training with real estate agents and brokers, is if you're excited about working, if you get up every morning and you're willing to work and ready to work, but you don't always know what you should do, then I can help you. I cannot help someone who doesn't want to work or know how to work or have any desire to work. But I've been there. I've been at that point where you get up in the morning, you're ready to rock. When you're with a client, things typically go really well. You're gifted, you're natural at that, you understand negotiation, you have an eye for property, you get along with people really well, they follow your leadership, they trust you, but you just don't have enough at bats at getting in front of people who want what you have. Then we can help. We can help in both areas. We can help you get better at the things that are natural to you, and we can help you get capable in the areas that are foreign to you. And so that's what we're talking about, is that how much structure is needed to build a really great team. And the balance that I just kind of walked you through is what I've discovered is best for most teams. Like I said, if your team is larger, there may be one or two more kind of team requirement expectation type touches. There could be a buyer team meeting. You know, there might be a staff meeting that doesn't include salespeople. You know, there might be a little bit more structure. You know, one of the things I didn't mention that we do is we do agent one-on-ones. I sit down one-on-one with every agent on our team once a week. The reason we do once a week is because if occasionally we have to miss one due to a closing or a showing or a negotiation or something, that's okay. We still got at least 2 or 3 in that month. But if we set that at an every other week or once a month and something comes up and we miss it, it's really tough to reschedule. And then it ends up being 30, 45 days before we've really done that. And that's not a good thing. So we go over our goals. We go over our quarterly goals, our monthly goals, our annual goals. We go over numbers. We go over comfort. We go over client type and value and personal stuff. And we just make sure that we're all on the same page, moving towards the right goal. And that really I'm doing my job, which is to help them achieve their goals. Their goals are always at least, if not way beyond, the minimum expectation I have for them. And you should have some expectations as a team leader. That's part of that structure, so that people really know what it is that they need to do. I've got 1 or 2 questions. Kenny, are you seeing any other questions come through yet? If so, just kind of let me know.
Not yet. Yeah, people are being shy with me.
If you have a question, just quick reminder, you can post it in the Q&A deal, or you can email it to kenny@toddtramonte.com, Kenny, kenny@toddtramonte.com. My name is, you can spell it, it's right there in front of me. So I keep getting some of the same questions, right? And that's part of the reason we did this, but they just kind of keep coming in, which is, you know, what if I'm a solo agent, right? I want to build a team, but I'm not there yet, or I don't even want to build a team. How do I build some structure in? And so the question might be, there's some differences. Are you truly a solo agent? You don't have any support staff, whether it's live or virtual. That's great. That's totally fine. You probably still should have some of this structure. What I mean by that is you should block out your own time to focus on these different things at certain times of the day so that you're able to really do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. So you set for yourself, hey, every morning at 8:15 or whatever time works for you, I'm going to make a list of things that I'm grateful for. Or I'm going to make a list of my successes from the day before. I want to remind myself of the progress I'm making. I want to remind myself that I'm a successful person. The second thing I want to do is I'm going to report my numbers. I'm going to write down what are my key things I'm tracking right now to achieve the results I want. I'm going to track them. I'm going to write them down, and I'm going to look at what's my trending? Am I trending up, trending down? Have I not been tracking at all? And the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a list. What are all the key things that I need to address today for today to be successful? We call that your big six. We call that kind of your prioritized to-do list. And then we use that same sheet to track our key numbers and our referrals and things throughout the day, vendor referrals, agent referrals, things like that. We don't have time to go into all that. But again, we spent, I think, 2 whole calls in our members only group on that over the last month. But you still want to have that structure, even if you're an individual agent. You want to basically model that morning huddle structure. Then you want to go do prospecting for 2 to 3 hours every single day, especially if you're a solo agent. Nobody else is going to do it. You got to do it. And then you want to circle up after that, maybe not immediately after that, but at some point during the day, I would say every single full-time professional, serious real estate agent that wants to be an expert should spend 30 minutes to an hour every day getting better at what you do. You should still have this exact same structure. You should read a book, watch a DVD, jump on a hangout like this or a webinar, or go to a seminar, buy a DVD set, buy a binder full of stuff you can study, and spend 30 minutes to an hour every day at a certain time doing that. Have that structure so that you can also have some flexibility. I think it's a horrible myth. I think it's natural to assume this, but it is wrong. It's incorrect. It's a myth that having structure will confine you, will limit you, right? Having structure and organization actually creates that freedom in your business, right? So if at 11 a.m. every day, you've already done the essential things that you needed to do that you're most likely to overlook during the hectic action of the day, right? You're never going to overlook you've got an offer in on your listing. You're not just going to not reply, right? That's the quickest route to a commission check, right? You're not going to have a buyer call you and say, hey, I'm pre-approved. I'd like to come by and hire you. You're not going to not answer that or not call that guy back. Those things are going to happen no matter what. You are likely to overlook prospecting, overlook focusing on your team's core values or on your culture. You're likely to overlook training. You're likely to overlook reporting and tracking. So if at 11 o'clock every day or whatever time fits your schedule, you've done all those essential things, and now you can let the day kind of go wherever the day goes. You can go show property, you can go on a listing appointment, you can invite someone to the office, take somebody to lunch, study something, go play golf if that's what you're into. Then you've allowed that morning structure now to create a ton of flexibility and freedom and autonomy in your life, right? Now, I believe we did a hangout several months ago on managing your time and getting the most and being the most efficient. We've talked about role specialization, but what I'm talking about is that balance between structure and flexibility. Virtually all of us got into the real estate business because someone somewhere sold us this awesome story of freedom and flexibility and be your own boss and make a lot of money. Now, I can't see you, but let's just go ahead. Raise your hand if you got into the business and found that you could do whatever you want all the time and make a lot of money. I can't see you, but I would bet a lot of money that not one person has raised their hand. And if you have raised your hand, congratulations, sir or ma'am. You are a rarity, and what you have done is not repeatable for the rest of us. So tip of the hat, have a great day. For the rest of us, we were told that there's a ton of flexibility and we can make a bunch of money. Now, that was not a lie, but what was left out of that is in order to do that, you've got to have some structure. You've got to have some systems. You've got to have some organization, right? And in our members only group, we do a call every single week, and we touch on this concept in, I would probably say every single call, but I'll just say 90+% of our conversations about everything from recruiting to training to buyer lead conversion, seller lead conversion, marketing, systems, organization, mindset, every single topic we cover, this idea of some structure and flexibility comes up because we all need the balance of the two. So a couple questions I've gotten. how much is too much? And it's a good question, because just the word meeting is really not a positive word. And as a matter of fact, this year we went through several weeks in our group again on the initial seller conversation, or what some people call it, seller presentation, and went through a couple of weeks on the buyer presentation, buyer conversation. And in both of those conversations, we talked a lot, about kind of setting the tone of expectation. And we talked about, kind of the mindset behind that. And we talked a lot about kind of the unspoken strategy and structure that you want to weave through there, and how conversational you want that to feel. But anyway, all that being said, you have to have a balance of those two things, and without it, you really are in big trouble. So this affects everything you do. This covers a lot of bases. Any thoughts on that, Kenny, before we jump forward?
Well, just kind of backtracking a little bit, the one thought that I had was about when you were saying that, creating some structure adds flexibility into your life. That's the same thing that we have when we train an agent or a new team member on using their calendar and time blocking and all that stuff. Those things go hand in hand, where they think, if I'm putting 10 different things on my calendar, I'm seeing my calendar, I'm seeing that I have a ton of stuff on my schedule. They feel like it's a burden, but ultimately that provides the freedom, and you don't have to guess. It takes the guesswork out of what do I need to get done. I can look at my monthly goal sheet that feeds off of my quarterly plan, which feeds off of my annual plan for my business, and I can see, okay, as someone that wants to accomplish X this year, I know today that I need to do these things, and they're on my schedule already, and that provides freedom. Once I get those things done, I'm taken care of, and I have flexibility. So that just the concept of the calendar and time management, it comes down to discipline, things like that. But that's where someone can personally pick up a lot of flexibility in their business, or just ultimately in their life, when they start to use that as a tool and realize that it is a tool, because time is the most precious resource that we have. And so I just kind of thought about that when you were talking about the last thing that you were mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, if you follow what I do, and even some of the stuff that Kenny shared before, you know how big I think the calendar is, or the schedule is. You can see a big giant wall calendar behind Kenny on the wall right there. But when you think about structure, we won't get into it because we've done it before, but the calendar, the schedule itself, is part of that structure, and encouraging every single person on your team to work off of a calendar or a schedule, and giving most people access to each other's schedules, so that you can kind of help each other and navigate the complexities of the business that way. But to circle back really quick to my thought on those initial consultations that people have, I was answering the question, how much is too much? And we talked about not even wanting to use the word meeting. I mean, we train people, don't use the word meeting. When you're scheduling a quote listing appointment or buyer appointment, don't say meeting and don't say appointment. Talk about sitting down together, or having a conversation, or getting to know each other, chatting a bit, that kind of thing. But how much is too much is depending a little bit on your team. And specifically, when you start seeing people really discouraged by your meetings, not wanting to go, finding any excuse to not go, then you've got too many meetings. That's just too much. Our morning meetings 10, 12, 15 minutes at the most. Our daily training meeting is 30 minutes. It runs over a little bit, like I said, because we enjoy that time and it's valuable. Our training day is the only long meeting we have, and it's all day, and we usually do something fun in the middle of that. But just it can become too much, right? The same reason we just talked about, people get into real estate for some freedom and flexibility. You need to make sure that still exists, but you need to make sure that this isn't the freshman year of college, where we all had a bunch of rules in our last job or in high school, and then you get to college and there's no rules, or you get to this job and there's just no structure, and you burn out and you end up with a 0.01 GPA, or you end up with 2 closings this year, and it ends up being a really terrible experience. So too little is a problem, but too much is also a problem. So hopefully I answered that question, but it's an important question to ask. So I think that's really important. A couple of the other things that we want to talk about today, kind of how to manage team accountability. We talked a little bit about that, how we ask daily for our team members to report their key numbers. And then we sit one-on-one weekly just to talk about goals and how are you doing? You know, is there anything I can help you with personally, professionally, anything I need to know about? You know, my wife had a baby, but our family has a new family member, new 2-week-old daughter recently. And so I was out, I was a little bit less available for a week or a week and a half, but everybody knew that because we had our one-on-ones, we had our huddles, we had our team practices. And so, you know, people knew, try not to bother Todd, but if something important happens, here's how he's going to be reached, here's where he's going to be. So things like that don't derail your business when you have the communication and you have the structure and you have the systems and you have that accountability built into those things. And obviously you want to lead by example on accountability. So if you commit to do something, you need to follow through and do that. We do have some simple technological stuff. You know, Kenny does a call with our members second Wednesday of every month where he talks through some of the tech tools and strategies and systems that we use to make sure that some of our values and our concepts and our ideas, you know, are followed through on. And so he's created some simple web forms and things like that where our team members can enter in their items that they need to be accountable to and submit that and track it over a long period of time. But I value the one-on-one time and the FaceTime and the conversations for that accountability. So those meetings are important for accountability as well. Just like it's important if you're going to do a newsletter, you want to make sure that it hits that mailbox every month or every other month or every quarter, whatever interval you want. The same is true when you bring in team structure. You want to make sure that it happens super consistently. The same way we want our target market to see us as always showing up, always present, very professional, predictable, you know, very clean. Same thing for our team. If we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. This at the interval we said, we're going to do it on time. It's going to be valuable every time. You want to make sure that you keep that rolling. You know, I mentioned we're going to share some secrets to increased profitability. And so we've talked a little bit about team structure, and we've talked about the systems of structure and the value of flexibility. I would say those two things alone, once you have them implemented and consistent, will lead to more profitability. You'll get more results from team members. You'll get more cooperation between them. And when you start seeing more cooperation and more results individually, you get a compounding effect from the team, which allows you to deliver more value to your client, which allows you to adjust your fee, whether it be a transaction fee or your commission, or through those same types of values and relationships with your vendor partners, allows you to reduce your cost, which allows you to be more profitable, right? So you can either generate more revenue, and so your profit just adds up, or you can minimize your expenses, or you can increase your per transaction revenue, right? There's a couple of different ways to do it. So you can just do volume revenue increases, per transaction revenue increases, and then you can minimize your cost. Those are some of those are really kind of the prevalent ways for you to increase your profitability. But without just targeting the numbers and thinking about, you know, kind of the people capital part of your business. Again, even if it's just yourself, your process improvement, your skill set improvement increases the value that you deliver to the client, and that allows you to increase your profitability, or allows you to decrease the cost of delivering the same or greater value, and that increases your profitability. If we had a ton of time, we could go into a bunch of specifics. If you have specific questions about that, post them or email kenny@toddtramonti.com, and I'd be happy to answer them. But this idea of the right balance of flexibility and structure does lead to more profitability, because it leads to a compounding effect of the value that we can deliver the client and the profit that we can, the revenue we can ask for in return. It also, those vendor relationships can really improve, and we can lower our own cost or increase some of the value that we deliver that we're able to then charge for. How to track lead conversion. So daily reporting is one. Having some sort of technology system, again, where somebody can email in or submit to a web form their daily numbers. But also you want to track more than just the daily activity. So there's kind of the lead indicators, and there's lag indicators. So a lead indicator is, what do I do on the front end to hopefully produce my desired result, right? So I make a phone call, I host an open house, they send a postcard. Those are lead indicators, right? That's the leading side of the transaction. I can put an effort on the front and I can track that and I can hope that I have great results on the back end. And then there's the lag indicator, closings, appointments, dollars, new people in the database. That's the result of the lead indicator. And you need to track both. Now, a lot of us in the real estate industry have been taught, trained, coached, haggled, whatever, harassed, only to track the lead indicator, right? Now, obviously, naturally, we're going to track some of the lag indicators like dollars, right? But I would recommend that you track both, and you track both with the same amount of diligence, right? I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm going to do this really, really quickly. We don't have time to go into this, into a ton of time on it, but this is one of the ways we track our lag indicators. This is a document that we use to track what's happening, right? So there's some of our transactions for the month. You know, you can look at some other months and see, you know, what's happening there. It's just a simple spreadsheet, right? So there's nothing great necessarily there, but at the same time, it's brilliant. You know, it didn't take a genius to do it, but it really helps us run the company well. It helps me see what's going to close this month, what's coming next month, and budget and make decisions to grow our team and to do some smart things, or to be careful, to watch our cash on hand, some things like that. But this is one way we track some of our lag indicators. We track our lead indicators through that daily reporting, weekly reporting, monthly tracking, and then we reevaluate those conversion percentages on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis in order to generate which lag indicator, which lag result we want to set as our goal for the next quarter or next year. So hopefully that makes sense, but you want to track both of those things. And that spreadsheet is one method for the lag indicator. Daily reporting, a spreadsheet, or a Google document of some kind is good enough for a lot of the lead indicators. A public scoreboard in your office where everyone on your team can see it is a really important way to track both lead and lag indicators. Track your annual volume. Track year-to-date appointments set, appointments kept, appointments converted, you know, calls, contacts, all those things, clients, closings, dollars, you know, agent dollars, team dollars, all those things. So you want to track both. You want to do that publicly. You want to do that privately. You want to track team goals, agent goals. We still have some time, but I want to get to as many of these things as possible. So I may go a little bit quicker on some of these things here. We talked about how to track. We talked about how to increase profitability, how to track profitability. You need to know your numbers. You need to know your cost. I do that on that exact same spreadsheet I just showed you. I have another one for projections where I can play and say, you know, what if we did this many listings this year? What if we did this many buyers? What if we added another agent? What if we took an agent away? You know, what kind of bonus could I offer to a buyer agent to increase sales? You know, what would be valuable? You know, so you need to be able, of course, to know your costs. And a lot of us throw money at something, hope it works, and then we just hope there's enough left over at the end for us to have had a good month, a quarter, or a year. And I want to be clear, I have some really, really intelligent advice for you. Stop doing that. Stop hoping there's enough money left over at the end. Look at your expenses, control your expenses, absolutely reinvest in your future and your growth, but you got to know what you've got going out so that you can hopefully build a business where you can generate a predictable amount of money coming in, so you can have consistent, predictable results month in and month out. And that's how you can start to play with profitability. When you can build consistency, you can start to build profitability. How to provide and protect the culture, make it public. You know, post your desired culture. I do it through our core value statement, basically short phrases, or they're not bullet points, but they're basically kind of bulleted ideas. You know, Kenny, you might want to share that real quick if you have quick access to it. If not, it's fine. But most of you have probably seen it. If not, I'll show. He can show it to you real quick. But we communicate that constantly. We talk about it, like I said, in our huddles, in our team meetings. It's posted on the wall. We have a printed copy that we hand to every single client that we work with. It's part of our initial conversation that we reference those core values. And as far as culture, You want that to be something that happens, not that you talk about happening, right? So as a team, one of the things that we like to do is eat together. So we have a leadership lunch that we'll do together. We do team lunches for birthdays and things like that. I took our entire team out to get certified for concealed handgun licenses because it's something that everybody likes to do. I've taken our team out, for meals. So we try to do some fun stuff like that. You want to make sure that it's a fun place to work and people like working there. So Kenny's got kind of our core value statement up there. Initially, I called that our manifesto, but the only word that I associate with manifesto is communism. So kind of stopped calling it that. But so there's a sneak peek of that. If you want a copy of that, it's on our website, or email Kenny or me, and we'll get you a copy of that. How to build trust between team members? Short answer: build communication between team members. As a leader, expect your team members to work for mutual benefit. It's easy to call yourself a team, and all that really means is that you share resources. I disagree with that. I think God gives us each unique gifts and abilities, and therefore, where I'm weak, I need a strong team member, and where I'm strong, I can help a team member who's weak in that area. And that's what builds trust, is when people genuinely want to help each other, and they do so. And it's not tit for tat. It's not, hey, I showed a house for you, you owe me $35. It's, hey, I'll show for you anytime you need it, you show for me. When I travel, you cover me. When you travel, I'll cover you. As a broker and a leader, you need to keep your eye out for, is there ever any imbalance there, and make sure that trust is still really high. But that should happen naturally as you set that example and as you provide opportunity for lots of good, healthy communication. How to have fun while working hard. Hopefully I don't have to tell you a lot about that, but I talked earlier about that. Spend some time to chat, tell a story, laugh at yourself, laugh at each other, do some fun things, whatever you guys like to do. Go to the gun range, go to a movie together, go kayaking, whatever it is that you do. We've never done a team retreat. We all are super, super busy and have a ton going on, but if that works for you, do something like that. But it doesn't always have to be scheduled like, hey, we're going to have a fun day next quarter. Randomly grab your team and go have lunch, bring in donuts, have some sort of stupid competition, play fantasy football, do some things that remind people that they did get into the real estate business because of some of the freedom and flexibility and fun that can be had. And then absolutely want to address how to create a culture of learning. Number one way to create a culture of learning is to model that you are constantly learning. Talk about how you are much better at this than you used to be. Talk about how you learned that in a book. You saw that in a DVD. You learned that from an agent who's better at that than you. How you bought an agent across town lunch because they do something well that you wanted to learn. You flew across the country and paid somebody good money to learn from them, and you're going to come back and share that. Kenny, I have to let you share for a couple of minutes on this, because you helped me really lead well on our team in this regard of having a culture of learning.
Yeah, I think it's important. We use that as part of our structure, and then we mention that in the interview process. And sometimes people will flat out say, I haven't picked up a book since I was required to in school, and even then I didn't even finish it. And a lot of times that's just not a culture fit, and that's just probably not going to work out for them to work with us, because we're going to encourage someone before their first day to read a handful of books or get started on a handful of books that we would encourage them to start on. And so I make that a part of my monthly goal sheets, how much I'm gonna learn or read or what I'm studying. We've built in kind of a master's kind of degree, self-taught master's degree. So we'll encourage the team to pick a topic each quarter and devote significant period of time and amount of time to picking up some information on that. Sometimes that's going to a conference, or sometimes that's just watching a bunch of videos on YouTube. But there's, about, if you have a bachelor's degree, there's, roughly 30 to 45 or 50 hours worth of additional schooling to get a master's. And so if someone spends an hour a day for a quarter, they're roughly equivalent to the same amount of classroom learning. And so we encourage that, and we ask people to teach on the topics from time to time when it's something that'll benefit the whole team.
Yeah, and just to jump in for the sake of time here, we do exactly what Kenny just talked about. We have that master's deal. As you can see, my horribly disorganized bookshelf is full of binders I've bought from other people and CD programs and DVDs of events I've been to and books that we bought, books I've written, reports I've written, all these things that we're providing to our team. We have everyone that join our team read the same 5 or 7 books, either before or right after they join us. We have an onboarding system. By the way, we share that with all the members of our group to help people assimilate to our team, and there's required learning and things there. I give every one of our team members a $500 annual budget for education, as long as I approve it, for them to travel or do something locally or buy a program. We want to incentivize and encourage learning and growth. And we've got about 4 minutes left. I don't mind going a little bit over, but I do have a call. Members of our members only group have a kind of a private call after this to kind of debrief on this. So I gotta stop fairly soon. But I told you, if you hung with us, I had something really valuable for you. Go over to freerealestatetoolkit.com as soon as we finish up here. And I have built a really, really cool deal. Let me show you this. You have access to, let me see here. A free real estate toolkit that we're going to send you that's got a little over $10,000 worth of stuff that we're going to give you. And all you got to do is pay the shipping. I think it's like $19.95 or $20. I don't even remember what we did. Some people, actually, it costs us more to ship it depending on where you are. But we're going to give you 5 reports I've written that'll help you generate buyer leads, seller leads, recruiting leads, correct the mindset of your team, motivate them to be successful. I can't even think of all of them right now. Instant access to a membership-only website where we provide audio training, video training, written training, scripts, dialogues. You're going to get a call every single week from us. I do a call on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday. Kenny does a call on the 2nd Wednesday. We do this on the 4th Wednesday, where our members get a private call afterwards to debrief and get rolling on implementing that. Here's some stuff that people have said about working with us. We do an agent business planning package where you get monthly, quarterly, annual planning. You get the physical documents we use. You also get soft copies of that. You get 3 really, really awesome CDs that I've recorded: buyer role play to convert buyer leads, seller role play to convert listing leads, and some negotiation training, which I think really is some of the best in the business. And then you get our literal exact specific plan for following up with buyer leads to convert business right away. So jump over to freerealestatetoolkit.com. You'll get instant access to our private Facebook group that only our members get. You get that for 60 days, by the way. You get the membership, members only website, and the Facebook group for 60 days. You get the binder. Here you go. Here's a picture. Actually, that's not it. Here's a picture of just some of the stuff that comes in the free real estate toolkit. You get a binder full of those free reports. You get the 3 CDs. You get the copy of the core values. You get some stickers, some scripts, dialogues. You get these printed notepads of our daily to-do sheets, our buyer qualifying, our seller qualifying. You get some cool freebie stuff in there too. In the Facebook group, you can ask questions and get them answered by Kenny and me all the time, usually same day. People share with each other, share what's working, what's not working. We post the recordings of all the calls, videos, audios, so much stuff. It's unbelievable. I obviously don't have time to slow down and go item by item, but if you want to grow your business, if any of the things I've said were relevant to you, if you wake up and you're ready to hustle and ready to work, and you don't always know exactly what to do, this is a no-brainer. For $20, we'll ship you a box full of stuff that will help you immediately, and then you get a 60-day trial of getting our attention to help you with a bunch of stuff. That's kind of funny. There's a buddy of mine, Wally. There's an ad of his on the page. He was actually a guest on one of our hangouts. That's really funny. There's an ad of his, and there's Facebook telling me to put him in the group. Anyway, you get a ton of stuff. It's all you got to pay is for us to ship it to you, and I'd love to have you. If you're paying attention to some of the stuff I'm sharing and the ways that I'm trying to add value to you and your business at no charge whatsoever, under a $20 bill to get a bunch of hard copy stuff, a bunch of soft copy stuff, a bunch more videos. Obviously, for our members, we do a lot more than we do on the free Hangouts. I want to provide as much value as I can on the free Hangouts. There's just not as much time. We can't cover as many topics. So go over to freerealestatetoolkit.com and take advantage of this, literally over $10,000 worth of stuff. People buy this stuff from us all the time, whether it's on a consulting day where they come in and spend a day or two here, or whether it's just buying those things as separate products. But we literally have shoved all we can in a prepaid USPS box. And like I said, it costs even more than the $20 to send it to a lot of you, but that's fine. I'm not trying to make a bunch of money on that. I want to send it to you. I want you to see the value, and then potentially we can work together in the future. But it literally is over $10,000 worth of stuff for less than $20. So go over to freerealestatetoolkit.com, sign up for that. We'll get it out the door to you as quickly as we can. Hopefully this has been really, really valuable. If somehow, some way we cross signals and didn't get one of your questions answered, email that to kenny@todsformoney.com, or just track me down on Facebook, shoot me a question, and I'll make sure that we answer that for you. Or that might be a good idea for a topic on one of our future Hangouts. And I'm glad that you stopped by and spent some time with us. Hopefully it was really valuable. Hopefully we covered everything we said we would and more. There's a couple things I was hoping to do that we'll circle back on a future Hangout and make sure that we provide for you. So have an amazing day. Get out there, sell some houses, get your mindset right, get your attitude right, get out there and provide world-class value to your clients so that you can build your profitability, balance out that structure and the flexibility so you can love what you do and build your business around the life that you want to live. Thanks for being on, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.